who should actually buy a network document scanner like the Fujitsu N7100, who can safely skip it, and does the price make sense for everyday office owners? Those are the questions that keep most buyers up at night, especially when you've already got a trusty multifunction printer that does a good enough scan. If you're on the fence because you're not sure whether a dedicated scanner will truly smooth out your workflow, or you worry you'll end up paying for features you'll never use, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of environment where the N7100 really starts to shine. Imagine a small to mid-size office that processes dozens of contracts, invoices, and client forms every day. The team needs a reliable way to pull a stack of mixed-size documents, get them into the system quickly, and make sure confidential information stays secure. In that scenario, the idea of a PC-less scanner with a big touchscreen is not just a gimmick, it's a practical way to cut down on the back and forth between desktop workstations and a cramped all-in-one printer. The scanner can sit on a desk, accept a mouse or even an IC card reader, and let any authorized employee run a job without logging into a workstation first. If you are a solo freelancer who only scans a few pages a week, you probably won't notice the convenience of a network-ready unit. A cheap desktop scanner or even the scanning function on your laser printer would cover those occasional needs without adding a separate device to your workspace. In that case, the N7100's price tag and its network features become more of a cost than a benefit. Now, let's dig into how the scanner actually behaves when you put it to work. The headline speed 25 pages per minute for Portrait A4, 50 images per minute in duplex mode sounds respectable, but the real test is how it handles the typical mix of thin office paper, thicker cardstock, and the occasional ID badge or plastic slip. Users have reported that the feed mechanism is forgiving enough to pull through a stack that includes envelopes and some lightweight cardstock without frequent jams, which is a huge time saver in a busy office. The large touchscreen, measuring roughly 10 inches, allows you to set scan parameters, choose destinations, PDF, JPEG, network folders, and even type in file names using the on-screen keyboard. For people who have to scan confidentiality-sensitive documents, the ability to set up custom job menus and require login authentication means you can enforce who gets to scan what, and the built-in encryption helps keep the files safe before they even leave the device. On the flip side, there are a few practical drawbacks that become apparent once the unit is in daily use. Because the scanner is a standalone network appliance, you'll need to allocate a permanent IP address or rely on DHCP reservations to keep it reachable. That adds a small amount of network configuration work that less tech-savvy offices might find a little daunting. The touchscreen, while large, can be sluggish when you're trying to edit a long file name or navigate deep folder structures. In practice, many users end up pairing the scanner with a cheap USB mouse to get more precise control, a feature the unit actually anticipates with its USB port, but it does mean you're buying an extra peripheral anyway. Another consideration is the way the scanner deals with non-paper items. It does support scanning plastic cards and thicker paper up to a certain limit, but the feed path can be finicky with anything heavier than about 200 GSM. If your workflow includes regularly scanning shipping labels, thick brochures, or bound reports, you might find yourself having to pre-process those items, cutting them down to size or feeding them 1:1 to avoid jams. That extra step is something you won't get with a true high-throughput production scanner, but it's still manageable for a typical office that mostly handles standard documents. Security is another angle where the N7100 tries to distinguish itself. The built-in login authentication means that you can create user profiles directly on the device, each with its own set of allowed destinations and scan settings. In a regulated environment, say, a medical office dealing with patient records, this can be a vital feature. However, setting up those profiles does require an initial time investment from an admin, and the device doesn't offer granular audit logs beyond basic job history. If you need detailed compliance reporting, a more enterprise-grade scanner might be required. So, who should walk away with this machine? If you run a small legal practice, a tax consulting firm, or a medium-sized sales department that needs to scan multi-page contracts, receipts, and ID cards on a daily basis, the Fujitsu N7100 offers a solid middle ground. It gives you network access, decent speed, and enough flexibility to handle a variety of media without forcing you into a full-scale production line. The security features add peace of mind without the need for a separate document management system. In short, for a team that values speed, a bit of on-device security, and the ability to scan without